Wake up! What's up, guys? Ian here from Sleep Deprivation, doing another episode of SD Talks with Eric. And today we're going to be talking about the differences in Ranked Season 4 between playing at the Bronze level and playing at the Platinum level, and kind of the balance in between. The reason why we're going to discuss this is that Eric and I both believe we're around the same skill level as each other. But when we did our qualifiers, I got placed in the Bronze 1, and Eric got placed into Plat 3. Now, over the course of the game, I've managed to work my way up to Gold 3. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience going up from the lower levels to where I currently am, and Eric's going to talk about his experience from what it's like to play in Plat, which I have yet to do. So, start things off. Eric, how'd you manage to go in Plat? Like, in your qualifiers, I think you played earlier than I did, right?
I played much earlier than you did, because I know a lot of the good players are going to play early, and therefore playing, as soon as the split starts, you're going to get there's a lot higher chance of you being with players who actually know what they're doing.
My worry was that if I did that I would end up playing against pros, knowing my luck, and that they would murder me. It didn't quite work out that way. I kind of got it was like rolling dice or flipping a coin. Like, which team was I going to be on? The team of smart people or the team of retards? Like, there was no middle ground. I either had a good player or someone that was a moron in my qualifiers, and I ended up going 2-8, and Eric, I think you went 5-5, right?
Oh, I did. I went even.
Yeah.
I also played fairly well in all my games, regardless of the whole.
I don't remember how well I personally played, but I do know that an example of a match is we had our last guy just say that he was going to refuse to pick the role of support. And by the way, in case you don't know, the way role picking goes in Ranked is you do a pick some man system, and the order in which you get to choose your role is dependent on the order your name is on the list. So if you are the last person to pick, it doesn't matter if you wanted, mid or something like that. You're stuck with whatever role is left, and that's the way it is. It doesn't matter. There's no discussion. There's no, calling your role. It's just the order that you are in the list. So, in one of my promo matches, for example, I had a guy that refused to abide by this system and picked a second jungle just for fun. And then during this game, he proceeded to pick a guardian that he said he was going jungle. So we had two junglers running around the jungle. I was one of them. He was another one. The duo lane basically was a hunter fighting against two other people getting murdered. And this guy was just stealing my camps, not really accomplishing anything. And other people were retarded, and they were just all yelling at each other the whole game. One guy left in the middle of the game. Like, it was a complete shit show. And this was supposed to be ranked, where people actually maybe give a fuck about whether or not they win or lose. So yeah. Eric, why don't you tell me what games were like when you first started playing in Platinum?
Sure. Well, I want to point out that I'm now in Gold 1 because I ended up demoting a couple times. And you know what? People are like, oh, the grass is always greener on the other side. Plat is so much better than bronze. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, fuck yourself. I had players who were like, you know what? It's Plat. So in theory, if I call a role, that means I'm the best at that role, and you can go suck it. So I've had, people say, I'm support. You're going to be garbage, and then go 0-12 as support. Well, I play jungle, which I don't normally play, and I go like 7-0. For an example, I had a lot of players be very toxic towards me. People were very against teamwork in Plat for whatever reason. Granted, so early into the split, it was very hard to tell whether people were supposed to be in Plat or not. I personally felt that I wasn't good enough to be in Plat. Um, I felt like I'm a decent player, but I would say I'm gold at the best, which I'm now in. That being said, I was still, I'd win a few games, I'd lose a few games. My win loss was for the most part, was very even. Um, but as the split went on, I feel like more people were getting deranked, and I ended up playing on a lot of diamonds as well. I was playing up a lot, which didn't help either. So through that, I find that where players are better mechanically, maybe, still the same level of toxicity. People are still being trolls. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It's gonna happen. Ian,
Yep.
anything to add? Anything to add to that?
Well,
Because that's my experience.
overall, I just actually want to ask you another question. In regards to when you were actually playing in there, did you find the games were always blowouts? Like either you won big or you lost big, or were there close matches?
There were a lot of my games were quite close, and although there was a lot of bad, a lot of players, like a lot of games were just came down to there was a bad call. There was no one's real fault, and people just kind of ended up we throw an important team fight, and that would lead to a Phoenix being taken or the Fire Giant being taken and them ending. That being said, there were quite a few stomps towards the end of my ranked in Plat, but I think that was just because like I was starting to play down a little bit. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I was playing because I didn't really bother to check. But to answer your question, the majority of yes, it was quite close.
My experience was very different from yours at first. Now, with us both being in gold, we have relatively similar experience, and also the player base is kind of more settled into where they're actually supposed to be. But in the beginning, I feel like the majority of players, with you being 5-5 and placing smack dab in the middle of Plat, were placed into Plat, maybe a little into more into gold, a few into diamond, and there were very few people actually placed in bronze. So it was just a fucking roulette of you never knew what you were going to get. Like, I would get people that I had a teammate that had, no experience in Conquest, a grand total of 4 hours played in Conquest, and they were in ranked for some reason. But I had then have another player that was playing at extremely high levels. I would play up all the time. Even now, I still find myself playing up. I'll have matches where I'm matching with like silvers and bronzes, and then other matches where I'm matching with plats and diamonds. I actually had a game when I was in gold where I was matched with I think it was like Aruzis. I don't know enough about pro players, but it was a pro player. I think it was a sub for enemy as their solo
Oh,
hero,
nice.
and he just destroyed. Like he went Erlang Shen, and right at the beginning of the game, when after the first wave clear at like level 1 or 2, he went in, took on the enemy solo and jungle at their camp, killed them both, took both their jungle camps, and just kept murdering over and over again. It was ridiculous. But I'm getting a little off track here. In the early game, there weren't a lot of people in bronze. People weren't where they were supposed to be. Most people that were in bronze were crap because, let's face it, but just people were all over the board. Like you'd have people that'd be like that were so new to Ranked Conquest that they didn't understand the picking system. It was a lot more ignorance than just flat out arrogant BM. There was a lot of BM, don't get me wrong, which is bad mouthing or whatnot, but a lot of shit talking. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that they were just morons, like tons and tons of idiots, and we would always either annihilate them like by a score of like 35-15, or get murdered. The amount of times that games would be F6'd at 10 was astonishing. The amount of times people would just rage quit was unbelievable. The amount of times that just, you know, people would just give up and AFK at base was insane. Like, games weren't games. They were more flip a coin and hope you win. And that's what it was until I kind of got to the gold level. And even then, it's still a little iffy because usually where the elo level for gold is about the elo level that qualifiers start at. So I also would have games I've been playing like for 100 matches, and I'll still get matched with qualifiers. Whereas when you're in Plat, you can't be matched with qualifiers. It won't allow it.
This is true.
So that is a whole nother barrel full of shitstorm that you can just deal with in there. Now, with that being said, Eric, you said that you don't think you're a Plat player. I disagree. I feel like you should be a Plat player. I mean, you've been hovering in Gold 1. It's not like you've been like diving down deeper into Gold. You're still really close to that Plat level, and you support main, which means it's harder for you because you can't carry a game as support. Now, there's maybe people in the comments be like, yes, you can. Let's be real. Supports aren't going to be running into a team getting a triple kill by themselves because they're landing a bunch of skill shots. They can set things up really well, peel really well, but a support isn't going to go in and kill the whole enemy team by himself. It's a lot harder to win a game on your own skill as a support because you have to rely on your teammates to follow up. Whereas if you have a shit support, yeah, you don't have that initiation, but if you're a really good ADC or a really good mid laner, you can still land big abilities, get a double kill, triple kill, turn the team fight single-handedly. And it makes it a little bit more challenging for you, I feel. So, with that being said, you can still work your way out of it, but qualifiers are bullshit. But I think what we've been able to establish is the biggest difference between, starting out in bronze and starting out in Plat is consistency. There tends to be a lot more consistency in Plat. Yeah, there's trolls, but like our earlier video where we talked about, playing ranked in bronze, which I'll put a link to in the section down below. There is a lot more trolls in the lower levels than there are in the higher levels. Or even if the trolls are the same, usually when you're fighting at a higher level, especially now that things have kind of balanced out and Plat seems to be, people that are in Plat should be in Plat for the most part, you're either going to have a decent player or a troll. Whereas at the lower levels, you can have a decent player, a troll, a newbie, or just a really bad player that belongs in bronze. And players that belong in bronze usually aren't that good.
This is true.
So you're either going to have, that's the thing, is you've got 4 player types that you have to deal with at a bronze level. You only have 2 you have to deal with at a higher level. So I think that pretty much covers everything. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think that's basically the gist of what the difference is.
One thing I will add in though is that overall, don't take your placements too seriously. Whether you get placed in platinum or whether you get placed in bronze, you're usually not going to see where you really belong until at least 100 to 200 games in. I didn't get to gold until after about 100 games. And even then, I'm still raising up a little bit, so I might eventually make it. But I made huge jumps out of bronze into silver and then out of silver into gold. So placements suck, but they're not everything. And just give it time. All right, well, that's all for today's video. If you have anything that you want to see us talk about in the future, please leave a comment in the section below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.